9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Royal Ladies of Truth podcast.
Yes, hello.
My name is Ivana, and to my left is what is she called? Miss LA. Hello, Miss LA.
Hello.
All right. All right. Cool. Let's go into it, guys. Welcome back. We're going to introduce ourselves for those tuning in for the first time. All right. Introduction. Hello, everyone. Again, we're Royal Ladies of Truth. We provide a national and international forum and a safe zone to talk about various life topics and challenges. Infused with hope, joy, grace, and love, the brand and organization focuses to aspire and inspire all of us to live in our possible.
Yes.
Coining the phrase, living my possible.
Yes, living my possible.
All right. Not only are we an organization, but we're also a mother and daughter.
Yes.
So that means we'll definitely have a variety of perspectives on each topic of the day. And mother, what is the topic of the day? Marriage.
Yes.
All right. Topic of the day is marriage. So we're going to get into it. But first, let's do a little introduction of our guest.
Let's do that.
Woo! All right. In front of me, we have Miss Kim and Mr. Kingston. Kingsley.
Yes.
That's Shade's nephew's name. Anyway, Miss Kim and Mr. Kingsley have been married for how many years?
33 years.
33. You better know. Yes, it's good for the men to know. 33 years. Wonderful. Our other married couple we have our invisible guest. They are here on Zoom, which is an app of
Via Zoom
Via,
by way of California.
what is it? A little
That's
meeting.
Miss Cassandra and Mr. Barry.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello. We hear you loud and clear from
Yes.
California.
And how long have you two been married?
18 years.
18 years. All right.
Wonderful. Yeah, we got to clap for that. All right, good. Now we have our wise owl, as always, Reverend McBride, bringing us in at the end of everything. She makes it whole, gives a little extra wisdom where we might lack or where we might need to hear something more.
That's right.
Reverend McBride.
She is our master.
Hello.
Yes.
Master what?
Yes, our master advisor. Just a
Master
master
advisor.
as you
No.
always say, master over it all.
I'm about to say no.
Yes. she's not our master in God.
Amen.
But she gives us mastering of wisdom.
Amen.
Mastering of wisdom.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Reverend McBride, hello. All right. So today's hello. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. All right. So our topic of the day is love and marriage. This is definitely Miss LA's expertise over here. She has been married for almost 40 years.
Yes,
Woo! Claps in the
yes.
corners. So, of course, we had to bring some millennial young people in to get in on the wisdom and, ask some questions, give our responses, our opinions on certain things that may have been more relevant then, that might not be as relevant now, or that we might need to bring back into the centerfold to create better or more successful marriages long term.
All right, let me set the stage for our conversation today.
Set it straight.
We are hoping that based on our experience, our collective experiences, that we can bring to the table some practical tools that individuals that are viewing our broadcast will be able to take away and immediately put into action, use it as a beginning point or a continuing point for research and or to assist them where they may need assistance, because so many times we find that in this day and time, individuals, young people and older people as well, may not have the person resources like a grandmother, a great grandmother, a mother, or someone that has had a longevity and that's been through the journey of marriage that they can go to or feel comfortable in going to. We want to reach those individuals, and even individuals that are dating or considering dating. This is appropriate as well.
Yes.
And then, yes.
All right, good. Thank you. That is true. A lot of people don't have elders, or their elders might have
That's
died
correct.
off, or they might not feel comfortable talking to the people that are elders in their
And
life.
people that are in a place of faith, in our faith system, it's a church, they sometimes feel uncomfortable with going to the church with their dilemmas because they feel they will be judged and or they feel their business will get put out there, or they feel embarrassed. So we're looking to offer a safe zone platform. So we're about infusing love, grace, all of that into what we do. We're not here to judge.
That's so nice. No judgment, everyone. To put it on the table, let them see it.
Yes.
It's going to be a great night.
That's how you can get help.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't judge, just listen. All right, so over here on my right side, we have a collective of young people.
All right.
Some in a relationship, some single, but none married. So to the government, we're all single, okay? So first we have Mr. Furious over here.
All
Mr.
right.
Furious, what's your relationship status?
Welcome.
Single.
Single.
Single. All right.
Heard
All
that
right.
clear.
All right.
All right, Mr. Ed over here, what is your relationship status?
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
What's your
I said, why
relationship
is that
status?
funny?
Because, okay, one, Edward has been one of my friends for a long time, and he has been single for a
Yes.
while, but now he is in a good place
Yes, let him move
with
forward.
a good woman.
True,
Let
true,
him move
this is
forward
true.
with that answer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in a relationship.
You're
Wonderful.
in a relationship. Very good.
All right, and Miss Queen, what is your status?
Newly single.
All right.
Newly single and
So
beautiful.
we have individuals in 3 different areas of their singleness.
Yes.
All right. Very good. Very good.
All right. And just to be clear, millennials is everyone that was born between 1981 to 1997. That's the millennial bracket. So that is the current generation of people that are dating, getting married,
All right.
leading the workforce. So we want to learn from you guys because it is important to know do's and don'ts. All right. So jumping into it, first let's define what marriage is. But before we define what marriage is, we want to shout out Black History Month real quick. It is the last day of Black History Month, but Black History Month is all year, everybody. It's every day, all year. So don't
right.
forget to share the knowledge with your friends and family every day. It's important. What'd you say, Mom, earlier? Why is it important to learn your history and all that?
It's important to know your past so that you can move forward to your future.
Yes.
Yes.
How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right. So Queen over here is going to give us our fun Black History facts of the day.
All right.
Okay. So, does everybody know why they chose February as the month for Black History Month?
No.
Why?
Why?
Who is they? Who chose it?
Ooh.
Ooh.
See, that's too
Find out
deep.
next
That's
That-
for
that's
another
too that's
time.
too
That's
deep
for
for right
another
now.
Okay.
Well, okay, so they chose it to coincide with Frederick Douglass's birthday. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very
I
good.
like that question though.
That is a good question. We're going to go into that later.
Yes.
All right. That's keep note that. All right. So shout out to Black History Month. Celebrated. Love it. Now, marriage is defined as literally, this is the Google definition of marriage, brought to you by marriage.com.
Mhm.
The state of being united as spouses in a consensual and contractual relationship recognized by the law. Also, the mutual relation of married persons, wedlock. The institution whereby individuals are joined in a marriage, an act of marrying, or the right by which the married status is affected. An intimate or close union. That is marriage. All right? Marriage. You married? Sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay, good. All right, Mom. We've defined marriage. So, going into marriage, we're going to go into our different couples, and they're going to share a little bit of their marital wisdom with us. All right? Cool.
I hear you.
Okay. All right. So, my first question, Miss Kim,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kingsley, especially for those that just joined in, we covered this before, but more in detail now that you're married, I feel like you would have a different take on this word. So, Miss Kim, to you, what is love?
Ooh,
Ooh, let's put that on the table.
what kind of love?
Uh-huh.
Marital love.
Marital love.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what love is not, it's not just like a feeling, right? It's
Mhm.
not just a feeling of, oh, I'm attracted to this person or I'm infatuated with this person or something. When we talk about love from a marriage standpoint, it's a non-negotiable, and it's a choice. You know, you have to
Yes, it
choose
is.
to love,
Right.
and choose to be with someone through thick and thin. You know, when you talk about the marriage vows and whatever you've had in your vows, usually it has something in it about the sticking with it through everything, that we really are one. So when you talk about, you know, a man leaving his mother and a woman leaving her home and they join together, I mean, it really is, you become one and you really complement each other. You, in every way, you know, and so it's really holding on to each other, depending on each other, and loving. I know that's part of the word, but loving each other unconditionally, being there for the person unconditionally.
Yes. Oh, good answer.
That was awesome.
Good answer. So articulate. Good choice. You did well, Mr. Kingsley. Okay, you did
Miss
good.
Kim.
Mr. Kingsley did well getting this one. Okay, that was nice and
Oh,
articulate.
that's
Yes,
right.
all right. And good job, Miss Kim. We appreciate that. Mr. Kingsley, what is love? Marital love.
Oh, wow. Marital love.
Mhm.
First of all, love is a willingness to give of yourself to somebody or to something. It's a willingness to. It's really all about you giving of yourself. It has nothing to do with what you get back. Okay, so so it's a
That's a
choice you
nugget.
make.
Yes. Nothing to do with getting what
You
you
know,
get.
the old song Teddy Pendergrass, you know, you give 50% and I give 50%, does not apply at all.
Oh, tell us something we
At
don't know.
all, okay? It's give of yourself, all of yourself, to the person that you have chosen to be your, in this case, your wife or your spouse or your, you know, there's a two-part to it. It's a friendship that you're seeking to build,
Mhm.
and it's a very, very committed friendship. And then there's the part about building a home together, you know, you know, procreating, having children, and so forth. So both elements have to be in there. For me, that's what constitutes marriage. I don't go by the Google definition.
Oh, yes. It says deeper than Google, honey.
You know,
Mhm.
you know, so what is love in a marriage is a willingness to give all of yourself to your spouse.
All right.
I like that. Ooh, married people.
And before we go further, we also have another couple joining us by way of audio. They could not be with us live,
Yes.
but they have done audio for us, and that's Sister Robin and Mr. Stan.
Yes.
Yes, and so we will bring that audio in at some point for their introduction,
Yes.
and then we'll move forward with that. And so let's ask the same question that
Same
you
question.
asked to
Cassandra.
Miss Cassandra and Mr. Berry.
Miss Cassandra, Mr. Barrett, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Hope you've been thinking over there. We had some great answers. No pressure. All right. Miss Cassandra, what is love?
The true definition of love is agape love
Ooh.
in marriage. It's unconditional love.
Okay.
It's completely giving of, like the gentleman said earlier, giving of yourself 100% to your spouse, and also accepting your spouse, the authentic person of your spouse. This who your spouse is sincerely, without any judgment and without trying to change them, because it's not our responsibility to change them. So love is accepting all of them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what love is.
True. The good, bad, and
Ditto.
the ugly. Ditto. Is that your answer too?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything. That's what we talk about. Love is it's unconditional. When they say unconditional, I really mean, hey, everything in the marriage, you're accepting the other person's faults. You're accepting their little whims and stuff. You don't try to change them, but you allow the Word of God to penetrate their hearts or change them the way He wants them to be. And then all we should have to do is accept that, accept that person, accept, Cassandra the way she is. And a lot of times we're not taught that when we first get into marriage.
Right.
We're always talking about the feelings and the emotions. Right. And that's where a lot of people fall into the problems. They have those issues because they think that it's her responsibility to make me happy and vice versa. And that ain't so.
That's true.
So
That's true.
It's not her responsibility to make you happy. You need to be happy.
And we spoke about that on the other show regarding dating as well. Yes, we brought up some of those.
It does
factors.
relate.
And when we were talking about dating, once you get married, things flip. We were saying when you're dating, it's an interview journey. If you see something, don't necessarily, you have to decide, but don't necessarily try to fix it. If they show you who they are, then you can see it, receive it, and leave it. And
see it and leave
all
it.
of those, all of those, so many different varying situations. However, when you get into marriage, for instance, what we say is now you have made a decision. You're no longer dating. You have made your choice. Now that you have made your choice, now what? Now what? What do you do? How do you move forward? So in a situation where when you're dating, you have a situation where you can walk away. Once you're married, then you have said, we're going to work through whatever comes. We're going to do it together. Continue. And right. Reverend McBride, ask Reverend McBride in regard to
for sure.
Love.
Reverend McBride.
What is love?
Yes.
What is love? But like that, I want to marry you, love.
Well, I don't think I can add anything. I think the couples have described love quite
tremendous
sufficiently, and
yes.
It's commitment. And
commitment.
Once you commit, if you commit to a person, then that means you give your wholehearted support.
Yes.
And it's good to know once you have passed 5 years and you have looked at that person over breakfast every morning for 5 years, you're either committed or you're not committed.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Very good.
But it takes a lot.
Speak about respect as well.
Yes.
Marriage. Some of the key elements: love, and then also respect.
Well, one thing that's really important to put out there is the reason we do have like you guys here and us as well,
Mhm.
millennials, and when we said 2020 versus the 20th,
Yes.
but millennials are getting married much later now. The marriage rate is actually the lowest it's been in 150 years, but
My.
the divorce rate is also the lowest it's been. So people are getting married later now, but they're also staying together longer. That is the statistic. But it's easy to say the divorce rate is low if a lot of people are not getting married. A lot of people are cohabitating. They're
Right.
staying together. They're what do we call it the other day? They used to recognize this in a lot of places.
Common law.
Common law marriage. That's like, hey, we pay bills together. We live together. We're married. We
That's-
just
they're not recognized.
but they're
that
not
in a
recognized.
lot
They're only
of
recognized
states
in
now.
7 states now, common law marriage. So anybody trying to do that's not a thing anymore. But that's a thing. We're not getting married as much, and it's because people have that fear of choosing the wrong
before you get a wife or take a wife, first make sure you are established within yourself. Okay, make sure that you're doing what God has placed inside of you, or whatever that gift is that He's given you. Make sure you're going down that path already. Whatever it may be, make sure you're doing it. And then when you find a spouse, find somebody who's going to actually help you in that process. You don't want them to be, like your servant or nothing like that, but somebody who can encourage you through the process, somebody that can, guide you, because a lot of times we don't take, direction from our wives or women very well, but God has placed something in them that we don't have. They're more in tune with certain things. So when you have an issue come up and give you an answer, it's whether or not we're going to accept it or not. So I think you should be, knowing, you should already know who you are and already walking that path.
Ooh, wait, know who you are, right? Don't go in fix you. But that is a little thing though, because help you find who you are. But he also said that you want to be with someone who basically can do something or know something that you don't know, so they can make you better as a person.
Yep.
So, but it's different. It's better to know who you are, but be open to the fact that the person
someone
can.
That's going to support you and support your dreams as well. That won't belittle you and look down upon you. And they have to be secure in themselves so they won't become jealous and trying to bring you down.
Been there.
Emotionally, not speaking life into you, and not valuing your accomplishments.
Yes,
right.
Miss. All right.
So
Miss Kim. Hi. All
Same
right.
question,
So,
same question.
number one, did you ever have any fear before getting married or deciding if you wanted to get married? And if not, great. But what got you over that, do I want to marry this person question? What was your number one factor that was just like, yeah?
I never had any fear. And I think it's because we really, maybe not intentionally, but took time to know each other. So it wasn't a rash thing. I mean, we were engaged we knew each other for a year before we got engaged or so, about that.
You were dating for how long?
We were engaged for a year and a half.
How long were you dating?
About a year before we got engaged.
That's love. I have a 2-year cap. I'm sorry. That's great. Go ahead.
But I think the thing is that, we got to know each other. And so as I got to know him, and especially his character, what type of person he was, by observing him, with his friends, with his family, how he treated his family, how he talked to people, just how he was respected by others. It kind of gave me a lot of insight into who he was as a person. So I didn't really have any fear. I think there are, when they say opposites attract, I don't know if that's really true, because I think, to your point, there's some places where we complement each other, where I'm weaker in an area or not as good or not as strong in an area, and he makes up for that. But then there are other areas where we are very compatible, that we like the same things. And I think so that makes it nice when we do things together. We do have a lot in common, but yet we still support each other in areas where the other is weak. So it's kind of a combination of both of those for us. But yet still, you never really fully know. I mean, you would think after 33 years, you couldn't be surprised by anything the person would do. I still get surprised as things that I go, oh, that's the way he thought, or that's the way he thinks about that, or that's what he did. So it keeps it interesting. I mean, it's not dull. It's still still growing.
That's why you have to continue to date and continue to grow together. After you get married, you continue to do what you did to build your relationship when you decided to get married. You don't stop. You build. You build from that foundation.
Yeah, I think that's where problems come up when people stop.
All right, Mr. Kingsley.
Well, the first time I met Kim, we only spoke for maybe 20 seconds. 20 seconds. And we parted. she was going in one direction and I was going in another direction. But after that 20 seconds, I made a call to a friend of mine that evening. I told that friend that I believe I met the woman that I would marry.
Oh, nice.
And,
Hold on, wait. Were you at work? I think I remember this. Okay, yes,
we
you
were
were
at work. We were at work, and I did not know any more about her than her name, and perhaps what floor she worked at, and that was about
What
it.
floor she worked on.
So to me, it was a spiritual connection that I felt.
All right.
Okay, it's a spiritual, and it's not chemistry, it's not sparks, it's not romance. Just just like the story of when Mary brought a pregnant Mary came to see Elizabeth, and the baby in the womb of Elizabeth leaped. That's a spiritual connection.
Right.
That triggered that.
Wow.
So that was the connection that I had. To tell you the truth, after that encounter, I did not see Kim again for 6 months.
Wow.
Didn't come looking for me.
Oh, you didn't look for her.
I did not go looking for her, but I did not see her.
Wonder.
Yeah, but it was this sense that I had, and then we met. I saw her again, and then I began to build it from there.
Okay.
And we dated then for about a year before I proposed, to marry her.
All right.
And that proposal, it took another year and a half before we actually married.
All right.
So by the time we got married, I had known her for more than almost 3 years.
Okay.
Almost 3 years, of which 2.5 of those were actual dating, and so forth. But it was that spiritual connection, and of course the 2.5 years, it was time that we spent to get to know one another, and so forth.
All right. I would say for Miss Kim, real quick, you remember who he was after the 6 months, right?
I did.
Okay. And then how did you make yourself seen? Did you go to her floor, or was it like
in the cafeteria?
I bumped into her in the cafeteria.
At work, still at work.
To her in the cafeteria?
Yes,
That's nice.
and at that point, in fact, she was with her girlfriend, and I invited both of them to sit with me.
Smart man. Y'all want to come over here? Good move. We like that.
Then we started to build it from there. But it has to be, something inside of you that tells you that this is the place to go. It's probably God talking to me.
Right.
Although, as somebody suggested, God doesn't really choose your spouse for you. They kind of lead you to places, but then you got to work it out yourself.
Oh yeah, that was our next question.
Yes,
That was a good little lead in.
segue.
That was a good segue because my
But one moment. The engineer, if you could get the audio queued up for Miss Robin and Mr. Stan. Let's get both audios queued up for their introduction, and then the first and second audio queued up. And then in the meantime, young people, if you can get at least one question ready.
I'm about to tune in right now.
To ask us.
Well, for the sake of statistics, while he's queuing them up, young people, I just read some statistics to you about us. And it is said that now we're dating 3 to 5 years before even thinking about marriage, just because financial reasons, stability, getting to know the person, make sure it's solid. Do you disagree or agree? Why do you think we're waiting longer to get married?
And then also, we're going to be talking about at some point, we're going to have 2 parts to this in regard to marriage. Might need 3. But we're going to be discussing, we want to get to talking about important elements of marriage that need to be worked out before you say I do, such as finance, how the other communicates, what do you need in regard to communication, and and what do you consider we talked about love and respect, but finances, child rearing, that type of thing.
What's a
blended
deal
families.
breaker? Because we have a
Those
list of the top things that cause divorce in America. We already know what the things are that lead us to fail.
Okay,
I'll
but
let
they
you
can
guys know
move
out
forward.
there what is the reason most marriages fail. It's good to know that, so while you are thinking about getting into one, you know what not to do, what to do. All right. So for us, hey guys.
I got your audio ready.
All right. So after we go through these questions, we're going to jump right into the audio from Miss Robin and Mr. Stan about
Yes.
their love story and what
Yes.
keeps them together.
Yes.
Queen, why do you think us millennials are getting married later and taking longer to date, or not really dating as much at all?
Okay, so I think that we are waiting longer because I think we've seen other people's relationships and other people's marriages that have failed, or it's just not the the best. So really, you gotta like think about it and decide, okay, do I want to rush it like they did and then end up in that situation that they're in, or take your time and consult God before you do get married.
Nice. So you've seen a lot of things that made you be like, no, because like I said, the divorce rate was very high in the 80s and in the 90s. So a lot of people did see their parents' marriages fail. So we are the generation that actually did see a lot of marriages fall, and that might have affected us in turn.
All right.
For you, Edward?
I think that more people are like focused on like being at a certain spot. I don't think that is not meeting the right person necessarily. I don't think that is not meeting the right person necessarily. I think that a lot of people are focused on other things. Work. I think that a lot of people are like focused on being at a certain place first before they decide to bring another person in their life.
Do you think the spiritual aspect is there as well? Because work, being focused on work is not a new concept. So is it what is it about the drive, the work, the grind? What is it that you think may be different from our generation to your generation? And then and then the spiritual aspect of it as well.
Okay. I feel like as far as what may be a little bit different is that we get to see a lot more people. Like, I feel like I don't want to say like this.
You can speak personally.
No, I just feel like we get to see a lot of success with everything being right here
on the phone. That's
we get to see a lot of success. So it's like,
so you're showing your phone.
Yes, through the phone, social media.
We get to see a lot of success. I think that it motivates us to want to have that, and not to say that a partner isn't important, but you at least want to be able to do these things, when you do decide to bring somebody else in your life.
All right.
And I think to add to that, I think there really has been a shift culturally over the years. If you look back from even the 40s, 50s, 60s, there's a different role that even women play in the home now than they used to. And there's a different pattern of work. Women are now much more empowered in the workforce. And so they're trying to get themselves together too. No longer are people saying, boy, I'm out of high school, I got to find that husband at 18, 19, 20 years old. I mean, we're, going on, getting our education, getting our degrees. And so getting our women, getting themselves settled. I think that changing role of women is also adding to the not being in such a rush to, to delay. And then I think there's something to what was said earlier about the me focus. I bet, I'm just guessing that back in the 50s, there were a lot of people that probably stayed in a marriage for whatever, the sake of the kids, it's the right thing to do. I don't want to disrupt the home, etc. Now people are much more self-focused in many ways. It's like, if it's not working for me, I'm out kind of thing.
I got options. I'm out. Yeah. All right. Mr. Furious. Question. What was the question again?
What was
No,
the
I'm
question?
playing.
Okay.
No, the question is like, why do you think that we are waiting much longer to get married, or some of us aren't even getting married at all and just cohabitating? What is the cause of that shift in our culture?
Those some good answers. They touched on like pretty much
Personally,
a lot, taking certain things out my mouth. I think just the speed. I mean, I think that's what it is. Like when we just talking about social media and jobs and what you can see, like it's the speed of life, what's going on. And so it's like you can kind of miss that. So it can be a lot of distractions. So as opposed to where you're saying like success, that success can be, distraction from love. Like so younger people sacrificing that now. Like, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice like not being in a relationship, but hey, I'm gonna be in this Fortune 500 company, and I'm gonna, I think we learning sacrifices. I think that's what I think I want to give it to our generation. We learning sacrifices.
So they've sacrificed love for finances and success a little bit.
Yeah,
it's not as much as a priority.
So the relationship is not exactly.
It's not a high priority. Because there was an order of things, like Miss Kim said: graduate high school, find a husband, have a baby, get married, have a baby.
Because back then that was in the forefront. Like,
that was it.
Marriage was everything back then. Now it's kind of like a lost ark. Especially in our
it's like, what's your credit score?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's love. Like the men was different back then. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, wow.
And a lot of women have their own bank accounts now. So it's like, I have everything. I don't really need you. You're basically an accessory that makes me happy, but do I want to have you for the rest of my life? So those things that have caused the shift in the culture of what marriage is, how important it is.
We realizing the options. We realizing options. So,
and in marriage, you have to be willing to share. You must be willing to share.
What do you want to say? I was just gonna say, well, it's not so much about you have your own money, so you don't need a man, right? Or you don't need a girl,
right?
I think it's about just making sure that you are consulting God, and I think a lot of us have not been doing that in our dating relationships. And like, if you keep running away from God, I mean, eventually it's gonna catch up to you, and you're gonna come to that realization, like, oh wait, these people are not from God. Let me start focusing on God and find who He are really for me.
That's a good. I have a question, and I know the audio is ready. Let's listen for the audio now, as you're queuing it in. But the next question is going to center around and Reverend McBride, Barry, Cassandra, Miss Kim, Mr. Kingsley. If we can be ready, how important is it in developing a solid foundation for marriage to have God as a part of that marriage, and not just as a part of that marriage? Should we have God as head of that marriage? When we marry, yes, it's marriage by law. But is there really such a thing as covenant and covenant marriage? Should there be? Is there? Think about that so you can respond. Let's listen to the audio.
I'm Robin, and he's Raymond.
Can you turn that up a little bit, please?
In 2019, we celebrated our silver anniversary, right? That's 25 years? 25 years last year.
Yay.
We met in college, so we were college sweethearts. We went to the Pennsylvania State University, not to be confused with University of Pennsylvania or UPenn. We went to the actual Penn State.
Nittany Lions.
I was a freshman and he was a senior.
Part 1.
But I'll tell you a funny story. My dad actually met Stan first. My parents were moving me into my dorm, and my dad was going back and forth to the car. And this one time he was gone for a while. So my mom was like, "Where'd your dad go?" And I said, "He went to the car." And she's like, "He's taking a lot longer than usual." So lo and behold, after however many minutes, he finally walks back into the dorm room and he says, "Rob," or my family calls me Rob, "Rob, I met this really nice guy, and I think he told me he was the SGA president, and I told him that you were a freshman, you were moving in, and to look out for you." So, of course, I was absolutely mortified by this because, one, I was thinking, all right, so if he's SGA president, he's probably white. And two, he's probably a nerd. And then three, how lame am I going to look that my dad told somebody who he's never met before to look out for his daughter? So I was completely mortified by that.
Best advice his dad has ever given me. And I've been looking out for her ever since.
And the crazy thing about it is we didn't realize it until like maybe several dates later. We were talking and he said, I think I met your dad. And I was just like, oh my God, you were the guy. So needless to say, 30 years later, because we've been together actually 30 years, I guess my dad's fatherly wisdom was the one that put us together.
Yes, my wisdom too.
His wisdom too.
That's cute. No, but they got set up and they stayed together. I like that. Oh, and I did want to share this actual statistic from Tinder. Yeah, everybody know what Tinder is? Tinder, yes, we know what Tinder is. You know what Tinder is? It's a dating app. A lot of people now are getting actually married or dating off of dating apps. And so they ask people, why are you waiting so long to get married? Because I've always grown up thinking about like my mom's story, your story, the story we just heard from Miss Robin. Like, I'm gonna meet the man. It's gonna be like some music playing in my head in the background. Then we're gonna date, and then I'm gonna be like, yes, I want to marry him. But now, like we said, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of people, and it's not that tunnel vision scenario that always happens. So I've read that it comes down to independence. It said that millennials are willing to settle for, or not willing to settle for the wrong person to find a long-term relationship. Half are worried about being in a long-term relationship, many due to the fear of a loss of independence. Millennials openly admit to feeling uneasy about the idea of being in a long-term relationship and waiting longer to marry, so that they are more mature and have better self-esteem and are more prepared for the enormous compromises and successful marriage. So in their minds, it's like, okay, the longer I wait, the more I'm going to be mature and stable, and this is definitely going to be.
It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
There is nothing guaranteed. There's not a guarantee. And I think this is a good segue into keeping God first. And if it's important, should we have God in a relationship? I know that Miss Queen, she has mentioned several times about having God infused in relationship and dating, and that it may not necessarily be happening and with this generation as much as it should. And then we've also heard that there's a broadening of availability to them as far as who's accessible, who they can reach out to. They may have 5,000 friends on social media or whatever, right. And they're able to reach out to so many different people and not just look at the people that are in their community per se, but they might date somebody in California, in New Mexico, or wherever, and do it online for 5 years. And then they come together and want to date.
Oh yeah, catfish is definitely.
Is that what it is? Catfishing.
Well, that's how you get catfish. Dating someone you have never seen before,
and then when you meet them, it's different.
Yeah, when you meet them, they're not that person. So we try not to do that as much anymore.
All right.
Date with them, like that's not totally like app dating. Like when they get on the app, they usually get people within a radius. They meet them quicker.
All right.
I don't think long term, like with long distance dating.
All right, and we're gonna.
It's not number one.
Right. So we're gonna be thinking about what is it that what needs to change. I mean, should things change? Is marriage important?
So yeah, going into the God aspect of it.
Okay. Yes.
I know that now, especially because there's so much information at our fingertips. A lot of people's faith has been divided, shattered, changed. What is God? Who is God? What does that look like? And so I don't think as people are as open to sharing their views as far as the relationship with God up front as it used to be, kind of just common. You meet a person, of course you go to church or you know God, and
it's something
we can
that
relate
you can
on that.
And
right.
if it's important to you, just like people share their favorite football team, baseball team, because it's important to them, or what fraternity or sorority they're a part of. Is God important in your life? Is your faith walk important in your life? It's something that you may not have to initially just broadcast. It should be evident in your life just by your daily living in your life. Let's continue the conversation.
Not only is it important in the dating phase to seek God and His will, it's, for me, the only thing that has kept us together. Without God in our relationship, because we had some rocky times, ups and downs, and I had times when I was kind of losing my mind a little bit, and kind of things like that. And if not for my understanding that this is not about me and my feelings, it's not about, and that it really is God that put this union together, and He that would keep it together. If not understanding that, we might not have made it. So I mean, really, God is the head of our relationship, and and I think we've grown. I mean, we didn't start out where we are now in terms of all those things. I mean, but I had a relationship with God when I met Him. He had a relationship with God, and I think it's only grown. But I think in times of trouble, in times of, having God to turn to, when you just needed somebody that, there for you, bigger than me. Exactly. That was God. Right. And that's been the constant for all 33 years, through the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. Because as much as you can prepare, I know you want to talk about what things should you decide on and talk about ahead of time, finances, whether you have kids or not. You're never going to be prepared for everything.
That's
when you think, oh yeah, we both want kids. Oh, but we didn't really agree on how to raise them, or who, what they were going to do in the house, or how we were going to discipline. We didn't talk about all that. So there's always going to be new stuff that you didn't cover ahead of time, and you have to work it through. And I think having God at the head is very important, because if you have a godly person, then the husband loves his wife, and the wife respects her husband. And so I think you have the foundation to make it work, to keep it strong.
That honor and respect. Yes. And showing love and kindness toward each other. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Well, that just makes me think of the term equally yoked. So have you guys heard the term equally yoked before, millennials? All right. For those that don't know what that means, well, it's a deep meaning, but basically having someone is equally on a spiritual level as you, as far as God, and knowing who you are, and just being confident in who you are, and just almost like compatibility, but more than just everyday compatibility. It's an internal compatibility, because you can have someone who doesn't know God or know anything about the rules of life, as far as being a good person, the commandments, 10 commandments, all that stuff. And you'd be like, it's okay. I'm going to bring them closer to God. That's great. That's a good concept. But when it comes to love and growing in a relationship, I feel like people have to be careful in those situations, because you can get a situation where that person actually brings you down, or makes you doubt what you believe, or, brings fear, or messes with your faith. And it's because you were never really equally yoked. You weren't on the same level of belief. So I would pose this question to you, Queen. Do you feel like a person can grow with you if they're not on the same spiritual level as you, as far as what you believe in having God at the front of your life? Or do you feel like
spiritual level, or if they believe that there is someone greater than themselves, that they believe in God?
There is someone greater than themselves. That's a good way to say that.
They believe in God. They believe in not just a higher power, they believe in Almighty God.
What do you believe? Yeah, so do you think there's a way to grow with someone who's not as confident, or may not have the same level of belief as you? And
or maybe they're atheists.
Or Or is that like, it's just a no for you, dog?
Well, hold on.
Could you bring the mic up a little bit, this one?
Okay, so the first thing that came to my mind was, you don't minister through romantic relationships. So sure, you can meet somebody, you may think they're cool, they're great, But then again, you got to ask yourself, is this who I'm supposed to be with?
Right.
And I mean, if they are atheist, you can minister to them through friendship, not romantic relationships.
That's a no for
Yeah,
me.
if they're atheist, it's a no for me. But I mean, if they believe in God, and if they're like, oh, I'm trying to build a strong relationship with God, like, I don't see why I would be like, nope, you're not on my level, so we can't, move forward. Yeah, like, I don't think that's how it should be. But again, you got to assess, is this the relationship I'm supposed to be with, or am I supposed to just minister to you as a friend?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to Ms. Cassandra and Mr. Barry and Reverend McBride to weigh in on this.
Yes.
How important, should God be a part of the
Oh, yeah,
relationship
we haven't heard from
before
y'all
you
in a
get
while.
married?
Hey.
Should God be the head of the relationship? Should it just be something casual? Should it be something that is deliberate? How has God, if God is a part of your relationship, how has God being in your relationship benefited your marriage?
Yes.
Right.
And dating,
Can
I
we
guess.
can we go ahead and answer that? Because I got to jump off this call.
That's what I'm
here in
saying.
about
Yes,
2
yes.
We want to
minutes.
hear
Answer right
from you.
now.
Tune in.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so number one, it is very, very important to have God, but mostly His Word in your relationship. It has impacted our relationship so tremendously from when we started until now. Everything that He says in His Word, everything in the Bible, everything in the Bible, we think of it as a religious book, but it's not. It's just a book of how you should live your life based on God's precepts, principles in the kingdom.
All right.
So those things that we've learned, how to, find ourselves, how to be honest with each other, how to be honest with ourselves, look at ourselves in the mirror, from how to hold our tongue,
Ooh,
not
good
allow
one.
emotions to dictate
How to hold your
everything,
tongue.
how to do practical usage of your finances. Everything you need to know about marriage or life in general. You don't even have to really be married for this. It's in that Bible. It's just that a lot of times we're taught that, if you're a Christian, the word Christian has already got a bad connotation out in the world anyway because of all the other stuff that's happened.
All right.
Number two, you think the Bible is a religious book, which it really isn't. It's just a book that's going to give you the rules of life.
All right.
And we, if we present it that way to people and, and don't be so, what's the word we always try to use? Not dumb deep about it. Just be practical about it. Just be practical about it.
All right.
And utilize His Word and let His Word do the work. All you have to do is present it. Okay. You don't have to do anything else but present His Word and introduce it into somebody's life somehow. Maybe a scripture, maybe, the way you live. If you just introduce it, He's already going to do the work. The Holy Spirit's going to go ahead and intervene. You're just there to carry it to Him and show Him, say, hey, this is what it is, and leave it at that. And just pray for the person. So that's what we do with ourselves. That's how we got to where we are right now. Have to stop fighting with each other. Like, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, I'm wrong. You're wrong. We just said, okay, what does the Word say?
All right.
And then we just took that and went from there.
Good.
So
You referred
that's
to
all
the
I got for
word.
this. I got to jump off.
All right.
All right.
Continue on.
Thank
Thank you,
Barry.
guys.
All right, Cassandra, can you weigh in?
Bye. Huh?
Thank you so much, Barry. We appreciate
Cassandra,
it.
you're getting off too?
No.
I'm going to call from my phone.
Okay. All right. So Edward, hey, as speaking from a millennial aspect, is it important to you that a woman has a relationship with God? Like, is that a factor to you? Or if she doesn't, does that affect the way you feel?
Actually, like, just hearing like these responses, it just made me think of a question.
Oh,
honestly.
go.
So like, married people, how do we feel about like mixing religions? Like, is that a thing? Is that not a thing? If it is a thing, how do you make it work? I mean, obviously this isn't exactly you guys' experience, but
Right.
maybe you might have friendships that
and we were going to discuss that on our part.
might have exposed you to
part
that.
2.
Ooh, stay tuned for part 2. I will say, do you know
But-
anybody that has a mixed religious relationship or a religion?
Not top of my head. Probably not off.
I do.
Yes, but Reverend McBride, would you like to
McBride.
would you address that, please?
Oh yeah, Reverend McBride.
Individuals marrying, Reverend
Address
McBride.
what now?
Individuals marrying, or being married, or consider being married, that are a different faiths, that they both believe in God, but they are of different faiths. You might have one that's a Muslim and one that's a Christian. You may have one that's Orthodox Greek or Orthodox Jewish, and one that's a Christian. You may have one that's a Hindu, and just would you expound on that a little bit?
Well, I think the young man hit it on the head. If God is not the head of it, then you've headed to trouble. And if you don't acknowledge God as God, then the marriage will not work.
Mm-hmm.
So if both of you are not on the same page as far as God being the head of the marriage, then you might want to consider other options, because marriage in itself is rough.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to deal with another religion in a marriage, then you're just headed for trouble. So rather than get into that, you need to establish in the beginning, is God the head of your household? Is God the head of you?
Right.
And if God is not the head of you, then you might want to consider other options.
Right.
But when you get married, you need to take divorce off the table. Divorce cannot be an option.
Take divorce off the
never
table when you
consider
get
divorce.
Right.
Yeah, never consider divorce as an option. Murder maybe, but never divorce.
What'd you say?
Murder maybe.
She said murder maybe. That's an old
Not
school.
literally, people.
Murder
Not literally,
maybe.
Not literally.
But not divorce.
Not divorce
we
till
said
death
that sometimes
do us
Yeah,
part.
divorce should not
be
be
an
an
option.
option. If you're
She
going
got
to
that
be equally yoked, and the Bible tells us that, be equally yoked. If you know that you have differences before the marriage, it's only going to be worse when you get married.
That's true.
So make sure you take the time. And I think Kingsley, said it well. Take time to know the person.
Right.
Take time to know the
And that
person.
way you won't then you won't step into a lot of dissension.
Right.
But if you don't know the person and these things spring up on you after a year or so, then everybody's in trouble. Then you have children
And then that's
and family all mixed
exactly.
in there.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes it can
So
work
make sure
for a
that you
while.
establish.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Sometimes it can
So
work for a
establish
while.
the Godhead. Yeah, establish the Godhead first.
Yes.
If God is not the head of it, then you need to seek other options.
Seek other
Yes.
options. What were you about to say?
Because sometimes it can work for a while. You can make it work. When people are, my experience in observing people and talking to people of different faiths that are in mixed faith marriages, that sometimes it can work for a period of time, but generally either they will not press their children toward in a particular faith. They'll say, well, we'll allow them to decide on their own when they get older, or one individual may pull back from their faith a little bit and not proclaim that faith per se, even though they may have been reared up in that particular faith. And sometimes there's one that becomes overbearing, and then you can get resentment in regard to a particular faith. And then you have to consider the extended family. It's not only your household. In some faiths, the social network of family is so tight and so critical and important that it can become an issue.
If that's
And
not
it's
important
not
to you.
only those two individuals. And you cannot prepare for every situation and every problem that can come up in a marriage. Illness can come up.
Mental illness or physical illness.
Mental illness.
That's a
physical
thing.
illness, all types of
For
things.
sure, sickness and health.
And so you cannot prepare for everything. But those things that you can prepare for, and those things that are just out there in your face, and like we're sharing some things, and we've all said, and I think it's been put forth that God is important in establishing a solid foundation for marriage.
Yeah.
That I know personally, sometimes with my husband and myself, didn't necessarily see eye to eye because we are two different individuals.
Different.
Precious to God. He would literally go into his closet and pray. And then I would go into my space and pray. And I would be praying about him, and he might be praying about me. But I know so many times I went in pressing into God about him, and God would show me myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we need to make adjustments as well. And then God will also answer our prayers and bring us together. And knowing that for myself personally, my husband I believe God gave me a warrior in the spirit realm. He is a praying man. And so many times, once I remember a particular situation where he was really pressing me to do something, and my spirit just was not good with it. And I prayed to God. I was like, God, how can I continue to honor him, not say what I don't need to say to make the situation worse, and we can move on from here. And I knew he had such a reverence for God that he would not tell me that God said to do this if he had not heard from God.
Oh, that's trust.
And so I said to him, if God has told you that we need to move forward with this, I'm good. I'm on board. And he said, let me get back with you.
Oh, so you wanted to make sure it was God, and he was like, hold on, let me make sure.
Well, but I didn't come to him in that way.
Yes.
I came to him in a way of him being sure that he had submitted himself and submitted the situation to God, and then come to me. So but God is faithful.
Share that, because it always makes me think. The one thing I always say that I read when I was little, that I read when I was an adult, and it just stands true for anything in life, especially relationships: build your hopes on things eternal. Mm-hmm. Hold to God's unchanging hand.
Yeah.
That is a nutshell version of that. Basically, you have to have something bigger than yourself in any relationship: work, school, friendships, romantic. Something has to be bigger than you two, because when it comes down to you two being at odds, what's left? Something has to be able to fix that. So real quick before we go, we did have another couple that's great. They could not be here today, but millennials do get married, and we have a happy one. And I basically asked her just real quick. I said, hey, what are your top 5 things that you think are important that you've learned while being married that will make a happy and lasting marriage? So her number 1, a lot of things that we've said today. So good job, married people. Mm-hmm. Number 1, shout out to Taya. Thanks. She said, be happy already before you get married. Mm-hmm. It's not your job to make someone else happy. Mm-hmm. That's it. Nutshell. Keep God first. Pray together. Hey. Yes. Pray together. Number 3, when speaking, operate out of love and with love, not pride. Ooh, I felt that in my soul. All right. Number 4, laugh a lot. And number 5, compliment each other often, okay? Baby, you look good. I love you, okay? So they're actually a couple that is millennial, unorthodox. They were good friends. They dated for 6 months before moving in together. They're engaged for 5 years, and then they married after the 5 years. And now they've been together for a total of 17 years. And been married for 7 years. So they did it out of order. But her biggest thing is, my husband's my best friend. Make sure you know the person you're going to be with, and that you're good with that person. You know them inside out, and you trust them, because trust is everything.
And that's why we need to see the individual in different situations as well. Not just when things are rosy, but how do they handle a situation when challenges come? What do they run to? What do they cling to when things get tough? All right. But time is running down. This has been so good. Yes, we're gonna have you back. Are you willing to come back with us?
I'm sure.
Yes.
We just laid the foundation today.
The next show will be March 11th.
March 11th. It's a Wednesday.
2 weeks from now.
Yes.
8:30ish, and we will be continuing the topic. We will be also discussing We may have to have 3 shows.
We got to get into it because we're going to talk about things that come in when it comes to marriage.
Yes.
Because our generation has cell phones. I asked my mom in the car, I said, have you ever checked my dad's cell phone? She said, why? I laughed. So that's a thing. Do you? Ooh, they're laughing. I want to get to that answer part 2. Do you check each other's phones?
But my quick answer, I got to hit that. My quick answer is, if you feel the need to check the cell phone or the computer behind you, you already have there's already an issue, and that should hopefully have shown up before you got married. All right, so you need to check that before you get married. All right, don't you agree, Reverend McBride? Sister Cassandra, are you back with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. And
what do you say on that?
Well, she got a story.
I have a story.
Real quick, let us get that.
What I have is sometimes the Holy Spirit will give you an inkling that something is going on.
Say that for the people in the back.
And that's what happened with me, but I didn't know what to do with it when the Holy Spirit put it in my spirit. And I was like, oh, no, that's not happening. That's not happening. That's the devil. That's the devil.
All right.
But there was some stuff that was happening in the background. And it eventually came out. And it led us to divorce. Eventually, we tried to reconcile for 2 years. It led us to divorce. But God led us back together after he taught us that we had put each other in a place where he should have been.
Woo! Oh.
Hey.
Nugget of the day.
Yes.
Don't put your spouse in the place where God is supposed to be, because it's not gonna work.
I think that's a good place to end.
Finale statement. I like that a lot.
Yes.
So yeah, stay tuned for next time, because part 2 we're gonna get into that. We're gonna
March
get into
11th, and can you tell us? I have a couple of community announcements.
Oh yes.
And then if you can tell our viewers, how they can reach us.
Yes.
But one moment, we have a couple of community announcements.
Okay. We're gonna, and also if you have a small business for anything that you have, feel free to comment and leave your business name in the comments so we can give you a shout out, so people can follow you on Instagram and Facebook. Go ahead.
She's touching my leg. Let me talk. Sister Cassandra, would you tell us about your book? You're a writer. Would you give us the title and give us the estimated time frame when your book will be coming out?
Yes, the title of the book is When the Mask Cracks.
When the Mask Cracks.
Wow.
Yes. And the publishing date right now is May 18th. So hoping it's going to be earlier than that, but May 18th is the publishing date.
Very good.
May 18th, publishing date, When the Mask Cracks.
Wow, we're looking forward to that. And we will look at, when it comes out, giving a couple of those copies away on the show live. And then in addition, I wanted to bring forth a young man that is being so industrious. And he has started his own, another business. He has multiple legs, multiple streams of income. And one of the latest ventures is, what is it called? Good Eden.
Okay, so you guys follow Good Eden on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, it's Good, Good, Eden, not Eaton, but it's a pun for eating because it's plant-based food. But Good Eden, GOODEDEN.io at Good Eden. And basically the platform is he has like little gardens that are portable that you can have in your home and grow your own foods. And he promotes good eating, and everybody's starting to just have their own organic based foods that you can grow in your home, you can grow in your garage, anywhere, and they are portable. You can take them, you can move them with you, and he has products that he sells on his Instagram based off of those products as well, and information on how to buy your own portable garden.
Yes.
So that is Adam in the last name, it's a business, Adam Yang, and follow him at goodeden.io on Instagram.
Yes. And we just want to thank all of our guests.
Woo! Thank you, guests. You did a great job. Thank you to my millennials. Thank you to my married people. This is day one. We're gonna get into it.
We've just had to lay the foundation.
Yes, because we got.
But now, if you've watched some of our other videos, we have a couple other videos that we did on dating. We really kind of press in,
dig in.
So we're getting ready to press in in the next video, hit the real nitty gritty, and
cheating.
We're going to really be transparent and share some of our trials, some of our troubles, some things. How did we make it through? Because
good questions.
Because nothing is guaranteed, and when we're in a marriage, it does not mean because we have God as our head that everything we do God's way. And even when we do things God's way, sometimes it just seems to be chaotic. So what do we do when we get in our own way? What do we do? How do we handle it? How do we make it through? We want to share those things with you all and give you some practical tools. So be sure to tune in, get your friends to tune in. This is for individuals, single or married.
If you're in a relationship, watch it with your man and your woman, engaged, married.
Yes.
All right, March 11th?
Yes, March 11th.
Wednesday.
Yes, in 2 weeks. And this has been Royal
Ladies of Truth,
brought to you by
Seven Spring Studios.
Yes.
I'm Ivana.
And with God,
I'm Ivana.
Yes.
And this is Miss LA.
I am.
And with God, all things are possible.
And I can do all things
through Christ who strengthens me.
Yes.
Ooh.
Until next time, God bless.
God bless y'all. Thanks for tuning in March 11th, next 2 weeks, Wednesday.
Bye-bye.